Yay! It's Wednesday already. Can you believe it? Okay, so my question for today is, it's Weather Wednesday. And I want to know what type of weather is your favorite. So is it sunny days? Is it those kind of chilly, windy fall days? Is it snowy, cold, shivering, snowman type snowy days? Or is it rainy, stormy, cloudy, thunder, lightning kind of days? The latter one is my favorite, by the way. I love rainy, stormy, thunder, lightning type rainy days. However, I don't want there to be tornadoes. I just want some thunder and some lightning and rain. And to be kind of warm. I don't want it to be like really cold and rainy. I like warm rain. Not that it really makes a difference. I guess you can't really go outside anyway, but I prefer warm rain. Just a little fun Miss G fact for today. Okay, so yesterday we read chapters 4 through 7. And the main event that happened was, well, I can't remember if Monday we found out that his mom lost the job or if it was Tuesday, but Mom has lost her job. Annie's dad has lost his job. And the main gist of yesterday was that he won the contest. Annie helped him write this poem. Basically, she wrote it for him. And he won the contest. He gets to be the one to try to sink the shot at the NBA Finals and win that $1 million. And he is so excited. But he feels like Annie should get to be the one to do it because she's the one that wrote the poem. So he goes over to Annie's house and he offers to her the tickets and says, hey, you're the one that wrote the poem. You should get to be the one to try to get the $1 million. And of course, Annie's dad doesn't have a job. So he's like, yes, you should do this. But she won't do it. She says, I'm not going to help that man advertise for his company when, you know, he laid off my dad and I'm vegetarian and I'm not going to eat that stuff. So she's not having it. And so he said, well, when I make that shot and I win that $1 million, I'm going to split it with you because you helped me with this. And she says, no, you're not. I'm not taking Mr. Finkel's money. And the dad is like, oh, we're going to get this in writing. Because of course, you know, like he understands that Annie helps. So but he's also like, you know, hey, I lost my job and $500,000 is $500,000. So whether it's right or morally acceptable or whatever, the dad is like, hey, let's get this in writing. So what do you think? Do you think it was right of Annie's dad to say, yeah, let's go ahead and put this in writing. You know, you can give us the $500,000, which is half of $1 million, by the way. Or do you think he should have been like, no, you're the one that's going to take the shot. You should get to keep it. So you can also let me know that with your Weather Wednesday. There's really no wrong answer. It's just kind of how you feel and what your morals say. So I'm not going to tell you how I feel or what I would say. So I'll just let you tell me yours because I don't want it to affect what you would say. Okay, so we're going to start with chapter 7. And like I said yesterday, all of the chapters are different lengths, so I can't say how many I'm going to read each day. But I'm watching the little timer at the top of my phone, and so when I get close to 20 minutes, that's when I'll stop. So if I'm getting close and I don't have time to get another chapter in, I'll stop a little early. Or if I have time and it goes over just a smidgen, I'll read another one. So I'm keeping an eye on it. But we're going to start with chapter 7. Okay, so chapter 7 is called The Secret. The news got around school pretty fast. Mr. Iannucci was nice enough to let me use the gym anytime I wanted so I could practice my foul shooting. There's a good backboard there with a regulation rim and a full net. Annie and I biked over to school on Saturday for my first session. When I opened the door to the gym, Ty and Johnny were in there shooting baskets. I hadn't spoken with them in a while. Annie was locking up our bikes to the bike rack. Oh, look who's here, Johnny said, the $1 million kid. I guess you think you're pretty hot stuff now. Mr. Iannucci said I could use the gym at noon, I said as calmly as I could. Well, we still have 2 minutes, Ty informed me. You know, Eddie, everybody knows you're a lousy basketball player. If anybody should shoot in that contest, said Johnny, it should be me. Then maybe you should have entered it, I replied instead of sitting there on your bottom. Hey, I can kick your bottom all the way to Pizza Hut, Johnny said, pointing a finger in my chest. I was about to take a swing at him when Annie grabbed me from behind. Forget it, Eddie, she said, holding me back. You've got to practice. Ty and Johnny fell all over themselves laughing as they walked out of the gym. Yeah, Eddie, listen to your girlfriend, Ty smirked. Time for practice. Well, he's going to need it, Johnny added. Loser. So long, airball, Ty cracked as the door slammed shut behind them. Let them laugh, I thought. They were the losers. Annie and I had the gym all to ourselves. Hey, Annie, watch this, I said after we pulled a bunch of basketballs out from behind the bleachers. I put the ball behind my back, leaned forward, and flipped it over my head, and it fell short of the rim. Very impressive, she said. Oh, yeah, well, let's see you do this. I turned around so my back was to the basket. I bounced the ball once and then kicked it backward over my head. It went flying over the backboard. Eddie, she said after I chased down the ball, I think you should be serious about this. What are you worried about? I'm going to make the shot. You're pretty sure of yourself, she said. How about you take 10 shots right now and we'll see how you do. No sweat. I stepped up to the line and I put up a shot. It bounced off the back of the rim and came right back to me. That was just practice, I said. Tell that to George Finkel when you miss your $1 million shot, she said. You're 0 for 1, big shot. I drilled the second and third shots but missed the fourth. Number 5 and 6 went in the net and then I missed 7 and 8. I swished the 9th. Just before I let go of number 10, Annie jumped in front of me and waved her hands in the air. The ball bounced off the rim and went off to the side. Hey, what are you trying to do? I complained. Wreck my concentration? Yeah, she exclaimed. Eddie, you're going to be under incredible pressure when you take the $1 million shot. People will be screaming and waving banners, and you know Finkel's going to try to ice you. I got ice water in my veins, I boasted. I'll sink it. You can bet on it. Bet on it? Annie sounded angry at me. You just made 5 out of 10 from the line. That's 50%. 50% isn't bad, I said. Eddie, on June 14th, you're going to get 1 shot. That's it. 50-50 is not very good odds. And with the pressure on, it's more like 40-60. I wouldn't bet on you. Hey, lighten up, Annie. It's going to be a piece of cake. Well, if you're so sure of yourself, I guess you don't need my help. And she huffed. Then she marched off the court. Annie, wait, I called after her. I'll get serious. But she was already on her bike, heading home by herself. Now all my friends were mad at me. It was turning into a really lousy day. Mom and I were finishing the dinner dishes when somebody banged on the door. We were surprised to see Annie's dad standing there, and he didn't have Annie with him. Come on in, Mr. Stokely, Mom said, quickly putting stuff away so the trailer would be more presentable. Excuse the mess. Mr. Stokely had to duck his head down to fit inside. At first, I thought he'd come over to beat me up because of the argument I had with Annie, but he had a gentle look in his eyes, and in his enormous hand, he was holding a brand new top-of-the-line Spalding official league basketball still in its box. That's a $100 ball, I said. You're right, he replied, and if you're going to shoot your best, you got to shoot with the best. He opened the box, palmed the ball, and held it towards me. Compared to the ratty old boss basketball I've always had, this one looked like a ruby or an emerald or something. Is it for me? I asked. Yeah, Mr. Stokely said, but there's a catch. What's the catch? You got to let me coach you. Sure, and you got to get serious. You got to do everything I say. Okay, I said. When do we start? Now. Now? It's going to get dark soon. Now. Mom nodded to me and I left with Mr. Stokely. Shooting a free throw is the easiest thing in the world, he said, as we walked over to the court in the trailer park where I'd first met Annie. The court was lit by a single floodlight. There are only 4 ways you can miss. Short, long, right, or left. That's it. He stopped at the foul line. Okay, he said, handing me the new ball. Show me your stuff. I spun the ball a few times in my hand, put my right foot forward against the line, and plopped up a shot. It went in. I was pretty proud of myself. You're taking a jumper? Mr. Stokely exclaimed. He acted as if I had just murdered somebody. What are you taking a jump shot from a foul line for? I always shoot foul shots that way, I said. You shoot a jumper when somebody's in your face, he explained. Putting your body in motion only increases the chance that you'll miss. You don't have to jump for a foul shot. Nobody's guarding you. The pros shoot jumpers on foul lines, and that's why the pros only average 66%. Eddie, a free throw is not like a shot from the floor. It's a whole different game, and you got to play it different. If you want to make all your free throws, you got to take a set shot. Both feet against the line, both feet on the floor. A set shot, I said, wrinkling up my nose. That's how they used to shoot in prehistoric times, back in the 1970s. Nobody shoots that way anymore. It doesn't look cool. Well, how's cool going to look when you step up to the line for your $1 million shot and you chuck a brick? Well, not too cool, I admitted. Well, all right then. You want to learn the secret to shooting foul shots? The secret? I scoffed. I just put the ball up. What's the secret in that? Mr. Stokely shook his head and chuckled softly to himself. He removed his wristwatch, slipped it into his pocket, and stepped up to the foul line. What do you shoot, Eddie? He asked. 50 or 60%? About that, I answered. The rim is 18 inches across. The ball is only 9 inches. You could stuff 2 balls in there at the same time if you wanted to. So there's plenty of room. You got no excuse for a miss. You should shoot 100%. Nobody shoots 100%, I said. He didn't respond. He just bounced the ball slowly 3 times. He glanced up at the backboard quickly and took a shot. The ball swished through the net. I retrieved it and flipped it back to him. He bounced the ball 3 times again, looked up and swished it in another. When Mr. Stokely drilled 5 in a row, I was impressed. When he hit 10 in a row, I was amazed. But he just kept going, 15 in a row, 20 in a row, no misses. He looked like he was in a trance. Bounce, 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 look up, shoot, swish. Same thing every single time. I'd never seen anyone with aim like that. When the 25th straight shot dropped through the net, Mr. Stokely finally broke his concentration and turned towards me. So, he demanded, do you want to learn the secret or not? I do. Well, all right then, he said. You got to do everything I said, because if you're not, I don't want to waste my time on it. I will. He took me by the shoulder and moved me to the foul line. Put both your feet right against the line, shoulder width apart. He instructed, pushing my body the way he wanted it. You need to be perfectly balanced. If you put 1 foot forward like you do, that makes your shoulders turn and you might miss to the right or the left. You feel comfortable? No, I said. Well, you will, trust me. He handed me the ball. I spun it in my hands a few times to get the feel of it. Don't slide your hands all over the ball, he scolded, snatching the ball away. See how that little black rubber dot in the inflation hole? Make sure that hole is facing up all the time. What difference does it make? I asked. The ball is round. You'll see. Put your thumbs in the groove here and point your middle finger towards that hole. He gave me the ball back and I did as he said, pointing my finger towards the little hole where you stick the pin in to inflate it. Now, bounce the ball 3 times. Don't dribble it. Bounce it slowly. You want to get the blood moving through your hands and arms. Now, what do you do with your legs? Well, I don't shoot with my legs. I said I shoot with my arms. You think so, huh? Mr. Stokely said. He went to the side of the court and dragged a lawn chair over to the foul line. Just see how well you shoot sitting down using just your arms. I sat in a rickety chair and put up a shot. The ball didn't even make it halfway to the rim. You see what I mean? Mr. Stokely said, taking the chair away. You gotta bend your knees and use your legs to power the ball up. If your shots fall short, that means you're not bending your knees enough. Your arms should be just used to guide the ball towards the basket. Pretend your arms are 15 feet long. Then you can just drop the ball in the hoop. I retrieved the ball and did as he said, bending my knees and reaching out towards the basket with both arms. Now, what are your elbows flapping in the breeze for? He asked. Keep your elbows in against your sides. When your elbows are out, you're going to push the ball sideways, left or right. You want your hands moving directly towards the target, straight for the basket. It feels stupid with my elbows in, I complained. Well, it'll feel stupider when you chuck an air ball in front of 1 million people. Well, I couldn't argue with that. Now we got to work on your head, Eddie. What are you thinking about as you stand at the foul line? Well, I'm thinking about making the shot, I said. Wrong, he yelled. You don't want to think about nothing. When you think, half the time you're thinking negative thoughts, and negative thoughts make you miss. Quick, what's the 2-letter abbreviation for mountain? MT. Right, he yelled, MT, and that's what your head should be as you stand at the line. Empty. I don't want you thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow or what you did yesterday. Clear your mind, focus on right now. What are you thinking about right now? Nothing. Good. Now, look down at the inflation hole in the ball for a second. Focus all your concentration on it like a magnifying glass, focusing sunlight on a spot so hot that it burns. Just 1 second. The crowd is yelling their heads off, but you don't hear them. They can't change the flight of the ball. Now, look at your target. What are you going to look at as you shoot? The rim? I said tentatively. I wasn't sure of anything anymore, but that seemed like the only possible answer. No, Mr. Stokely yelled. If you look at the rim, you'll hit the rim. You want to look a little above the rim. I want you to imagine a column of air, an empty space that curves up through the middle of the rim, a nice high arc like a rainbow. Now shoot the ball through that column of air. It took a few moments to visualize a thick round glass tube leading from my hand up and into the basket like a funnel. I took a deep breath and prepared to take my shot. What are you staring at? Mr. Stokely suddenly barked. Don't stare at the basket. It ain't going nowhere. You must have an accurate view of a target in the instant you first see it. The longer you stare at it, the more you start calculating how far it is and how high your arc should be. Stare at the inflation hole, then just glance at the basket. Your instincts and muscle memory will tell the right distance and direction. It was a lot to remember. I stepped to the line again. Okay, Eddie, Mr. Stokely said, it's just you, the basketball and the basket and the ball. Put it together. I took a couple of deep breaths, put my feet square to the line. I bounced the ball slowly 3 times, keeping the inflation hole up. I put my thumbs in the groove, elbows in, knees bent, focused on the inflation hole, glanced a little bit above the rim, and I put it up. Swish. Now that's the way you shoot a free throw, Mr. Stokely said, clapping me on the back. Wow, was all I could say. It was an amazing feeling. It was totally effortless. I felt completely comfortable at the line. It felt like my body was a machine, engineered to do nothing but shoot free throws. Now, do it again, Mr. Stokely said after flipping me the ball. You've got to use the same exact routine every time you shoot until it's repetition and it just comes naturally. Like breathing, you'll get to the point where you know the ball's going to go in as soon as it leaves your fingertips. I did it again, and the ball swished through the net, and again and again. I drilled 10 in a row without even touching the rim. How does it feel? Mr. Stokely asked. Like $1,000,000, I said, and we both laughed. Now you know the secret. The sun had completely disappeared from the sky, replaced by a show of stars. Mr. Stokely sat down on the blacktop, stretching his long legs out in front of him, and I sat down too. Who taught you the secret? I asked. My coach at St. John's, he said. Andy told me you almost made it to the pros. Well, I came close, he sighed. I was the star of the team my senior year. I averaged 18 points a game. Scouts from the Lakers and the Rockets were coming around looking at me over. I was sure they were going to draft me. I figured I'd be doing my own sneakers commercial, driving a fine car. Well, what went wrong? I got sure of myself. I goofed off. I didn't show up for classes. I didn't run my laps. I got lazy. I was so sure they were going to draft me. I was out spending my bonus money I didn't even have yet, and I should have been practicing. Then I didn't get drafted. I could have been with the Lakers. Instead, I wound up with Finkel. Mr. Stokely spit on the blacktop, stood up, extended his long arm to help me up. Sometimes you get one chance in life, Eddie, he said as he walked me back to my trailer. One shot. No do-overs. This is your shot. Your opportunity to get out of this dump. Don't blow it like I did. I watched as he slowly walked back to his trailer. Okay, Chapter 8. Something's going on. The next day after school, I begged Annie to go to the gym to help me practice. Reluctantly, she agreed. Watch this, I said when I got to the foul line. Then I pumped 100 shots without stopping, making 91 of them. No trick shots, no fooling around. Well, Annie said, a big smile on her face, what's gotten into you? I like your new work ethic. Your dad is a good coach, I replied. It was 3 weeks before the big day, and I started practicing seriously. Mr. Stokely had instructed me to take 500 foul shots a day to improve my muscle memory, as he called it. After a few days of that, I started shooting free throws in my head. Lying in bed at night, I couldn't count sheep. I counted basketballs swishing through nets. Annie was my main coach after school, and whenever my mom or Mr. Stokely weren't out job hunting, they'd come over to the school gym too. Mostly they just watched, but every so often Mr. Stokely would give me a little tip. Don't be straight up and down, Eddie, he said. You want to lean forward a little bit. That puts you a little closer to the target. One day I was shooting my 4th set of 100 shots, and I was really in the groove. I drilled something like 18 in a row. Mom and Mr. Stokely had stepped outside for some fresh air. Annie was rebounding and feeding me the ball. Hey, Eddie, she said, do you think something's going on between my dad and your mom? What do you mean going on? You know, going on. Nah, I said, and I put the next shot in and it bounced off the rim. I couldn't imagine my mom having a boyfriend. She hadn't been out on a date since my dad had died. I hadn't so much as seen her hold hands with Mr. Stokely. I didn't like the idea. Do you notice she calls him Bobby now instead of Mr. Stokely? Annie pointed out, and he calls her Becky. Those are their names, I said. What else could they call each other? You're nuts. Well, don't you notice she laughs a little too hard even when he says the smallest funny thing, Annie said. And when they talk to each other, they look at each other a little longer than they have to. It's like they're trying to see into each other's souls. Oh, man, I said, you read too much poetry. I think it's cute, Annie giggled. Doesn't it bother you that your dad might be going out with somebody? I asked. What would your mom think? Well, I wouldn't know, Annie replied. She died when I was 2. I would have asked her more about it, but my mom and Mr. Stokely came back in the gym to watch me shoot my last set of 100. With all the practice, I was shooting a consistent 90% from the line. In other words, I was making about 9 out of 10 shots, 90 out of 100. Hardly anybody can do that, including professional basketball players. Word must have been getting around about me because people were starting to gather to watch me practice. A funny thing happened at one of these practice sessions. I was standing at the foul line in the gym, and I just swished 12 in a row. Mom was next to me, and suddenly, from the corner of my eye, I noticed a guy sitting by himself in the top row of the bleachers. He was pointing a camcorder at me. Hey, Mom, who's that? And as I pointed in the direction of the guy, he quickly got up and ran out of the gym. And that's where we stop for today. That's kind of an exciting place to stop, huh? Okay, so don't forget about Weather Wednesday and let me know what type of weather is your favorite. You can send it to my email or Class Dojo or Facebook. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.